Well, that's going to pick up. It's turned into an ASMR. Isn't that what?
Ooh, that's going to come back. We're going to circle back on that.
Okay. That feels threatening somehow. Okay. So yesterday.
Yep.
In your sermon, at one point you asked an important question.
Yes.
And you asked us to raise our hands.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you hate. Is like something like that is what you said.
Yeah.
And I will confess, even though everybody can pretty much see me, that my hand was about to go up. A, because I want to have your back and fully participate, right? Like if you're asking for group participation, I want to be right there with you.
In on the...
Yeah. But also, there are some things that I hate, but they're not terribly serious. Okay. So to start off today, I wanted to tell you one of my hot take hates.
Hot take hates.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I think that celery is a stupid vegetable.
Oh gosh.
And should not be used. It's okay as because I know it's important in Cajun food. It's one of the the important 3 that you use as a base. Fine. But celery in general, don't snack on celery. What are you doing with your life?
Even with peanut butter in it.
I mean, I guess that's better.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Apparently celery takes more calories to digest than it gives you. Okay? Which basically means it's useless. The point of food is in fact to give you calories. Calories is such so supposed to be such a bad word. Calories give you energy so you can live your life. Calories are not the enemy, okay? And so it makes me so angry when people have celery, it's a good snack. No, it's not a good snack. It's doing nothing for you. It's not helping. It's giving you no energy whatsoever. It's actually costing you. You are negative energy if you eat just celery. But with peanut butter, I guess that could be better. Plus, but also it's kind of gross.
It is kind of gross.
I put it in some things, be real, but
it's like eating crunchy water.
Yeah, and doesn't that just descriptor sound really good? Oh, crunchy water. No, it's terrible. That's my hot take. I hate celery. I get really mad about celery. I hate celery.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah. It's a random one.
I have 2 hot take hates. Are we back and forth in this?
You just live your life.
I'll start with fake plants.
Oh, I knew about that one.
Yes. I hate fake plants. Don't like them at all. I know everyone on staff here knows I hate fake plants.
We do.
It's well known.
It's a well-known fact.
Well known.
Don't put a fake plant.
Don't put a fake plant in there. Mark is not going to be happy. I don't like them. You know this story, but I once in college, I once lived in a house with 4 or 5 other guys, and we had a fake plant. And it was we gotta get rid of this thing. I hate this thing. So in the middle of the night, we went to another friend's house and planted it in his.
You did tell this story.
In his front yard.
That's really funny.
And there's a lot of funny little other parts to it, but he didn't know for a long time, and I think that's great. I've threatened that to Irene. I'm gonna go plant some fake trees in her yard at some point.
That's so aggressive.
It is, but anyway. So fake plants.
Not
hot
having
take,
it.
hate.
Yeah. I don't know if I have another strong hot take hate like I do with celery. That's pretty much my hottest take.
Yeah.
I will say another thing that I really hate though is when this is so dumb. I'm a little embarrassed to tell this one actually. I'm gonna do it anyway.
You've already opened the door.
Yeah, it's true. I did this to myself. When people get really angry about cart returns.
Okay. Okay. That someone didn't return their cart?
Yeah, but it's not that they didn't return their cart. It's when it really makes people angry. Okay?
Okay.
Because you don't know somebody's story. Why are you in a Target parking lot so filled with anger, Judy? I just made that up. Anybody named Judy in our congregation is
Poor Judy.
What did I do?
She just got angry once.
What is your deal? It's because have you ever been in a parking lot with a toddler or a baby and there's no good cart return and it starts to rain? What are you supposed to do? Leave that tiny baby in the car and be like, oh, but it's my civic duty to put this cart back. You don't know the struggles. What if they have a hurt leg? You don't know. Could they just have been lazy? Yes. But if it bugs you so much, then you put the cart up. Stop whining.
Wow.
I have feelings.
Man.
I just feel like it's one of those things that's like socially acceptable to judge people for. Mm-hmm. And I just think maybe get a life. There are other things to be upset about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just judgment in general. Although clearly I'm judging some people, so maybe the call is coming from inside the house. Please pray for me.
Okay, here's my second hot take hate.
Okay.
It's more of a pet peeve, but I guess you could say I hate it.
Okay.
But I really dislike the sound of other people eating.
Is this where we circle back to the ASMR?
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you want to really like...
So like if you go to a meal with friends, are you uncomfortable the whole time?
No, like in like a... Like if it's like loud and that sort of thing, fine. But like if it's kind of like a quiet room and I can just hear the noise of someone and I don't even want to make it, like it would be like, but like...
So funny. Marcus.
Poor Hannah. Hannah knows this, but...
We used to call it smacking.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with... You didn't know smart, so I don't want to assume you know smacking. Yeah, you know, that noise you make. We used to argue about this when I was growing up at the kitchen table every morning at breakfast. Mm-hmm. It would be like, she's smacking. She's smacking.
Yeah, smacking. Mm-hmm.
It's gross.
Yeah.
But we didn't actually talk about hate yesterday.
No, it didn't.
No. What we talked about was how the opposite of love isn't hate. It's actually worse than that, you said.
Worse than that.
It's fear.
Fear.
So let's talk about fear and love. I'm Becca. I'm the pastor of family ministries here at Katie First.
And I'm Mark. I'm the senior pastor here at Katie First.
Welcome to the Katie First Family Podcast, where we offer ideas, encouragement, and inspiration for you and your family to grow as joyful disciples of Jesus Christ. So let's talk about it. The opposite of love.
Yeah. This is, I said at the beginning of my sermon, it's the part of 1 John I've been looking most forward to talking about and us getting to. And so John says, perfect love cast out all fear. Mm-hmm. And those who fear, love has not been perfected in them. And how the opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear. And the reason why that's worse is because hate is usually something we isolate to only maybe a few people, mm-hmm. Or it's something that, because it's such a strong emotion, we can sort of see it and then sort of have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. But fear is universal. We all have it. It's basic human instinct. And it often kind of hides underneath the surface, but is a great motivator and sort of dictator on behavior, thoughts, and how that in itself makes it much more of an issue. And there's so many things, obviously, that grow out of fear. But love, according to 1 John, is what is sort of the remedy to us being able to not let fear have the keys. To, as we've been asking this whole time, what does love require of me is one way of saying, let me not give fear the keys, and let's find a different way to operate and live.
Yeah.
So such a beautiful piece of scripture. This is where John just bluntly says, God is love, and those who abide in love abide in him. And I mean, that line of itself is worth everything.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful piece of scripture. So
yeah.
It
really, you know, so it's a family podcast, so I'm allowed to talk about this. The way that I understand my relationships in love, definitely just as I've gotten older, has shifted. It's like I've learned more. I don't think it's my age. I think it's just like the experiences I've had, and some people have more when they're younger. But I think one of the things I've learned about love in particular is the way that we do just tend to think of it as being so temporary or or transactional or both, right? And so you can love something one day and not the next. You can feel love one day and not the next.
Yeah.
And this is not an indictment on anything. It's just personally, like, one of the things I've realized is, like, for me, what comes easily is to love, like, my nephews first. I would say, honestly, like, that was my first connection or understanding personally of, like, unconditional love that I felt. And then my own son, right? But because that happened organically and it was different, right? It wired in my brain differently. It has taught me how to look at other relationships with that same kind of, like, lens that I have to work harder at, if I'm honest, right?
Yeah.
I don't have the same kind of just innate patience for a full-grown person, right? That I would for somebody who's young. And that's fair, but actually people do just require patience, and which love is patient. That's why I'm using that.
Yeah.
Love is patient. Love is kind, right? I'm learning so much of that. And I'm honestly learning so much of it about myself, about how I have not perceived that to be loved is to feel that people are being patient with me. I always felt like people shouldn't have to be. I should be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this got like a weird therapy vibe, which I didn't mean to have happen. But some of those, like, quiet things that run through your brain in relationships that undergird how you interact with people.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's a long-term relationship, or just like a quick transaction between you and somebody you just met, you have all of this stuff, this, quiet narrative in your head that dictates how you move in the world.
Right.
And that was one of the things that I really appreciate about your sermon. And I'm going to say this, and don't be weird about it, okay? Just decide you're not going to be weird.
Okay.
The problem of complimenting somebody's sermon is that it potentially makes it seem like other sermons are not as good. Which isn't the case. Yeah. But there was something not just about what you said, but even just like the text itself that is uniquely powerful.
I agree.
And I felt like yesterday's message was uniquely powerful. And I got that from people all over, but I felt it myself several times. One of the things you said, I wrote it down. Does I have my bulletin from yesterday?
Yeah.
I wrote it down. And I apologize to Julie Spear for being like, do you have a pen? Like, really aggressively. One of the things I wrote down that you said was, when we're driven by fear, I see fear on your face right now because you're not sure what I'm going to quote. When we're driven by fear, the inclusion of God feels sinful.
Yeah.
I put in like parentheses almost, because I couldn't remember by the time I found the pen if you said almost or not.
Yeah.
Or if I just like felt the need to like slide that in. I don't know. Sometimes I want to condition things too much.
Yeah.
When we're driven by fear, the inclusion of God feels sinful.
Yeah.
And I think like inclusion could be subbed in some ways for love.
Yeah.
Or grace.
Yeah.
Because we talked about the opposite of love is fear. There's a line in there about punishment. Mm-hmm. And I was like, the opposite of punishment is grace. Mm-hmm. And this plays out in our personal relationships, what we choose to offer people.
Yeah.
And 100% it plays out in the way that we understand God to interact with us as people. Mm-hmm. Is God sitting there in judgment, waiting for punishment? Even like, I think like the softer version of that is like, God doesn't want to punish us, but like God may have no choice.
Yeah, right.
Okay, there's a hot take. I have a hot take hate for you. If you are the person who makes the rules, and you do a lot of hand-wringing about how the rules have handicapped you, I'm calling it.
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I don't think God operates like that.
Yeah.
But I think we do sometimes. And so maybe we are projecting that onto God.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't see God going like, sorry, I have to punish you because these are just the rules. I love you. I don't want to, but this is just what I have to do.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Yeah, it's why these verses are just so dang powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, so like you could just come back to them so often because the narrative that, and I don't know if that narrative it's inherited, if it's bad theology, if it's just part of our human shame that twist the narrative of who God is.
Yeah.
But we make God often into that sort of angry, punishing person. And John's like, the end, God is love. God is love. God is love. And the more you can rest in that, all this other stuff that we usually armor up with just begins to lose its grip. And it's such a counterculture. We think we have to fight that, but it's really in leaning into the love of God that just begins to make it slip away. Yeah. And it's such a powerful, and I agree. I mean, what I got up for the sermon yesterday, I just felt like up to that point in the service already. Sometimes you get to preach, you're like, I don't need to say anything. Yeah. We've already sung. We've already read. We get done with reading the scripture. You're like, I'll just sit back down. Right. Like you could feel just the grace of God already having said enough. Yeah. And so it was just a really powerful whole service, I think it was.
Yeah. One of the things that I don't mean to make this about me. I'm trying to open a door for like other people to be like, yeah, me too, because sometimes that's helpful. One of the things I've had to learn about love is that fear piece, right? Makes you like want to clench up and close your hands around the things that you really love, because it is a scary world, and sometimes things happen. Yeah. That like bad things do just happen. I think that's one of the hardest things I've had to wrestle with as an adult, is that bad things don't just happen to other people. There's not like some special group of people who all of the bad things in life happen to, and so you can kind of rest assured that you're probably safe. Accidents happen. Diagnosis just happens. And I think one of the privileges and also hard things about being a pastor is that you sit with people in those hard moments. And so you realize like how fragile really humanity is, right? Okay. So like when Samuel was born, I love him so much. And I was just so riddled with anxiety and felt like too much love meant there was so much to lose. Yeah. And I heard that in a different way in your sermon yesterday too, right? About the early church and just that love seemed weak. And it left you vulnerable. Yeah. And it absolutely does. Yeah. We are broken open. Yeah. And it turns out that in that is freedom. Yeah. Even when the bad things happen. Yeah. Even when the awful things, the tragic things, the sad things happen. That openness to love never comes as a punishment. Yeah. Even if it's hard. Yeah. And I think the idea that our fear can set us free because we can somehow prevent, it just makes us exhausted. Yeah. I mean, that's the only eventual outcome, that we're either bitter or exhausted, bitter or burnt out, just to keep alliterative, because that's what we do. Yeah. And so like living in a way that allows us to love just totally free of fear, because we are loved that way, and because that's who God is. Yeah. And therefore that's who God made us to be. Yeah. What a gift. Yeah. To move in the world in that way. Yeah. And to just not have to be afraid. Yeah. I mean, okay. Right. God's not coming for you, and there's nothing that you'll ever walk alone through. Yeah. And I would add to it, it's that when fear comes, it just also doesn't have to, and it takes, none of us are perfect. Right. But the more we can lean into it, I'm afraid here.
but this doesn't have to control me.
Yeah. But I can make a decision.
I can make a decision.
Yeah.
And it's super vulnerable.
Yeah.
I don't think I got to it. I think I left it out. But I was thinking about Wesley's 3 rules. It was in my sermon, but I don't think I said it.
I don't think so.
But I was thinking about how that would apply, because Wesley has his 3 rules of do good, do no harm, stay in love with God, attend to the ordinances of God, however you. Mm-hmm. And, so one version of not letting love have control is, not letting fear have
Get
control
out of here, love.
is you're able to not react out of it.
Yeah.
And you're able to choose the loving thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes maybe that fear is just so dang strong.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And which made me think of Wesley's second rule. Okay, so the loving thing is just don't do any harm.
Yeah.
Like maybe you can't do something.
Yeah.
But just don't let the fear make you do the harmful thing.
Yeah.
And I think that could also be true.
Yeah.
Like when we just feel totally powerless, then there's still an option.
Yeah.
Of doing what is not harmful.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't get to it. I ran by it.
Oh, well. Good.
Yeah.
But here we are extra
back.
time.
Also, I don't, you got it right, but, I can't remember if I said almost or not, but, it almost was not in my,
notes.
Yeah.
I mean, this line is just going to stick with me because it makes so much sense. It allows me to be a little more compassionate when I feel like people are calling things sin that I wouldn't call sin, that I don't think is biblically correct or whatever. Because I can be compassionate for somebody who is filled with fear.
Yeah.
Right? And I have a lot less compassion, I'll just be honest, and maybe a way that needs prayer. I have a lot less compassion for someone who's teaching fear.
Yeah.
Because that feels manipulative.
Yeah.
But if you feel fear, well, I've been there.
Yeah.
I often am there still.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think, fear happens.
Yeah.
It comes up.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you a bad person because you're afraid.
Nuh-uh.
I think that's another narrative that can sometimes.
Right. Exactly.
But dismantling some of those things in your brain, going, why is it that I feel this way or think this way? Is it based on fear? Or is it based on love? Is it based on punishment or is it based on grace? Like looking at those things and having that internal, at least, dialogue so that you're making a decision with your eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're aware of what you're doing. It's not an accident.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful. So I've been here almost a year now, which I guess isn't really, what is it, April?
Yeah. You got
I know, but I feel like that's almost a year.
Feels like a year.
I'm like the kind of person that if it's like 3:37, it's 4:00. You know?
So are my dogs.
Yeah.
They eat at 4.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Hello. Feed me.
Conversely, if it's 3:34, it's 3:15.
Your rounding, your time rounding is interesting.
It's particular. So I say that to say it's been almost a year. And there's often when you start a new appointment, this is like a honeymoon phase. So I keep waiting for it to for the penny to drop and me to be like, oh yeah. No, this is just it's not normal sauce here. I don't know if you know that. At no point have I been it's not that it's not work. That's not what I'm saying. I'm consistently amazed at the beauty and the love and the grace that is in our church family.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm so grateful for it for myself because I feel like I can just be myself.
Yeah. I
don't have to be afraid that somebody's gonna listen. I've been in churches where people are they were upset because I wore open-toed shoes at communion. This has happened to me.
Okay.
So but I'm never afraid of that because even if somebody had a narrative in their head that's that is not what somebody should be, they would never say something to me.
Yeah.
They would not rudely, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just not that's not who we are at Katie First.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful and beyond grateful to be raising my kid here. and that I get to be a part of all of these families now who are raising their kids here.
Yeah.
That we really are just this like family learning, growing, but genuinely asking the question, what does love require of us? Mm-hmm. What's going to be next? Mm-hmm. And what does it mean to choose to lean into God is love? Mm-hmm. And love casts out fear.
Yeah.
And only good things are going to come from that.
Yeah.
Different things, beautiful things.
Yeah.
Holy things.
Yeah.
Stoked to see what's next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So next year when it's April and I'm like, I've almost been here 2 years, you're going to be like, okay, well, first of all, simmer down. Yeah. But we'll just have all this wonderful stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
So I don't have like a quick tip because these narratives in your head, it's not a quick tip. Yeah. I think we may just like start deleting that from the because there's no, like a lot of this stuff is just long work.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Grace is not the work of a moment.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong enterprise. And so God working that out in us just keeps going. I think the main thing to kind of take away is just to be examining our narratives in our head.
I think so.
And are they driven by? What are they driven by? At least ask the question.
Yeah.
What is it
that
we're being driven by?
Yeah. Is there anything I'm afraid of here?
Yeah.
That might be impacting why or what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Which is, we all have that.
Yeah, for sure. And that can impact just you or the way you're interacting with other people or the way you think about the world. I mean, it can be super small or super large. But be asking that question of yourself. Yeah. So.
Great.
It's good. Not a quick tip, but a good one.
Sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we thank you for joining us today. We hope that you have found some inspiration and encouragement for yourself and for your family. If you'd like to get this podcast delivered directly to you each week, you can subscribe or follow us on either Apple or Spotify.
Yeah.
Yay. For more information about Katie First and our upcoming events, of which there are several.
Always.
Because summer is a-coming. And registrations are closing soon, so don't wait. You can go to our website, katiefirst.org. Mostly, we want you to know that in the middle of your ordinary, messy life, whatever that looks like for you right now, that you are loved. You are not alone, and you are doing a good job.
Yeah. We're finishing this sermon series. We've got one more chapter to go to talk about love next week. It's Communion Sunday and it's Graduation Sunday. We have 2 wonderful seniors that we're going to be recognizing, so we'd love to see you in church with us on Sunday or just back here next week. Until then, have a great week.